All of this starts with an author who is so excited to get some character art done for a book they're working on. The book isn't quite done yet, but they were like, I'm gonna jump the gun. I'm gonna get some art made. They got the art, they're so excited. And then some stuff started coming out about the artist. So let's delve into this. And again, before we get started, disclaimer, please don't send hate to any parties involved. This all begins with this author whose username I cannot pronounce well, but it's Lapid Essence. And the author writes, did I commission character art for a book that's less than half written? Yes, I did. I will share it soon, but for now, I cannot recommend this artist enough. And they basically go to say how great their experience was working with this artist. This is great. I think post, where the author is like highlighting artists and things like that, I think that's such a great thing. Hopefully the artist is not a scammer, but we'll see in a second, guys, right? And again, it's not the author's fault at all. A lot of times, if you're not an artist, you just cannot spot AI artists or scams, whatever, especially if the artist later goes on, a little bit of foreshadowing, to try to gaslight you. There's another post on Threads posted by user RT Eves Fantasy Writer, writing another scammer artist. Call me Jenny. It highlights a post that Jenny made on Threads, writing, commission me and make an artist happy this Valentine's. And in the comment section, Eves is being a little cheeky, responding, I would love to commission you, but can you explain why the metal is morphed into the, and I'm so sorry guys, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce this right. Igulate? I've never seen this word in my life actually. But the metal is morphing into the clothing detail of the outfit. And the art piece that is being referred to is this piece specifically, where Jenny says, an author imagined it, I illustrated it. And it's a character with black hair, one blue and one kind of like reddish white eye with the black marking across the face, kind of like regal European military style clothing. And you can see that there are a lot of metals on the chest, and one of the metals is literally melting into the ropes of the clothing. But on top of that, look at the metals. Okay, we have a floral shaped metal, a bunch of circular metals. What is happening to the metals over here? Because that's not a circle. These two metal pieces actually melt into each other, and there's like a little thingy on top. What exactly is happening? Not to mention, all the buttons are completely uneven. This earring is like an artifact. And again, a big one when it comes to like, is this AI? Is this not AI? We look at the artist's work as a whole. And if you look at the artist's other pieces, the styles are also completely different. That's a bit interesting. But the artist posted a work in progress digital journey behind the scenes to show this is their process and how they drew it. So let's take a look at this, right? They drew it in Photoshop and they toggle on and off a layer for the scar on the face, which isn't really proving that they hand drew everything. And here we get a little bit more close up where you can see how much of an artifact the earring looks like. But look at what the artist does. The artist gets a giant red brush, color selects the skin, and then makes like a soft light orange glow just a little bit on the cheek. And then goes and does it again for the eye. So they just add like a red soft light to the eye. And that is the work in progress. Look, again, like artists are entitled to show a work in progress if they want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But what's weird is why? Why was this the work in progress that was shown when that's not in the final character art? The final character art that's posted does not have that orange glow on that cheek and does not have the red glow in the eye. I can go on Google, download an image, open it in Photoshop, and then get a brush and then paint on top of it and say, oh, look at my work in progress. It doesn't mean I drew the original work myself, because I didn't, right? I just painted over something else. And they have some work in progress stages shown on their stories. That's not really, again, showing any art process. Here again, we have another snippet work in progress where there's the final image where they proceed to just airbrush some brown into parts that already have shadows. Huh? Like, this is not a true work in progress. Like, we don't see any sketching, we don't see any flat colors applied, there's no rendering. All these work in progresses, the art piece is already complete. They're just adding some extra brushstrokes on top. But anyways, going back into the post, right? In response to the cheeky comment left by Eves, Jenny responds, I followed the reference image provided by the client as closely as possible. During the rendering process, some elements visually blended together, but I appreciate you pointing it out. I'm like genuinely confused because how would this metal insert itself into the ropes? Like, you just wouldn't draw that. And a commenter says, quote, during the rendering process, some of the visual elements blended together, end quote. You know that's controllable, right? You don't just render it crappy like that, which an artist would know how to do. And Eves responds, it's straight morphed inside of it. And then it gets even funny, okay? Jenny makes another post, and this is the post, and it says, so I didn't plan to do this, but I'm dealing with an emergency right now, so I'm opening 2 urgent art slots, single character for $50. Your support would truly mean everything to me right now. And there's a work in progress. And okay, this is the most, to me, unbelievable work in progress. They're coloring on top of a line art layer. You can see there's only 2 layers open, right? The line art layer is completely flattened. It's white, and they're airbrushing on top of it. Again, I want to add, and I really want to re-emphasize, right? Every artist has their own art process, but some artists will, I guess, apply their base layer using a soft airbrush. It's quite uncommon, I feel like, to find artists who work with line art who will apply their base color doing this. But you will never really see an artist flatten their liner onto a white background and then paint on top of that. I mean, that's again literally playing life on hard mode. And I feel like most artists, we try to make things a little easier for ourselves. It is so much easier to have your liner on a separate layer that's transparent and you paint under it. Even if you use an airbrush and that is your choice, it's so much easier to make a white layer, to then draw your line art, flatten it onto the white layer, and then paint on top of it. Like you're gonna cover all of your liner. Just, huh? That's like trying to make a pizza. You put your dough in the oven, you take it out, and then you put your raw cheese, raw tomato sauce, and then raw vegetables on top of it. Like, you're doing it in the wrong order. The person who called them out writes, "What a weird way to do base colors, and what a weird screen cropping, too." And they add, "Just to explain my point, blocking base colors with an airbrush, especially if you want to color precisely, they really seem to try really hard to not hit the line art here, and the airbrush just leaves that soft white space between the color and the lines." Yeah. Another person says, "Damn, airbrushing a base color over a non-transparent line art layer? Wow, such a professional artist. Definitely not something every noob does upon discovering digital art." And like, that's the thing, right? I feel like everybody who does digital art for the first time, you've done something like this. You've done the liner on a white background and then you're coloring around it and you're trying really hard. You're doing this, you're doing something like this and you're trying to like, "Oh, let me not mess up my line arts." I definitely started that way, and I feel like most of us did, right? Until you realize, "Oh, whoa, wait, hold on, transparent layers are a thing." And then I could put my line art on a transparent layer and then color beneath that, and then all is fine and dandy. Yippee, yippee. And another call out was made, and this person writes, "This artist is scamming people with fake art made with generative AI. Do not fall for it. And who uses the soft brush for the base color, OMG?" And OP adds, "So for people saying I'm ignorant because I called out the soft brush and actually didn't understand the point here, I'm gonna clarify since it seems not obvious, especially for beginners that I don't want them to feel bad. Using a soft brush for shading is absolutely no problem. I use it too. Using a soft brush to fill everything in, going outside the lines, and then erasing to build a silhouette isn't the issue either. Here, the person isn't even filling the entire sketch, leaving blurry edges that just reveal the impossibility of creating a solid foundation for a proper rendering. Clearly, this person doesn't know how to draw well enough to produce a correct rendering that matches what they're proposing. I'm the first to tell people they can do their process however they want. Using a soft brush or not is their choice. But here it's about looking at why I am saying this in this post. Because the person doesn't even color fully the sketch. Even if you want to build a blurry shape, seems a technique too, for a rendering painting, then you don't waste time on such clean line art. They don't intend to build the character. It was just to show, hey look, I can color too, nothing more. I admit I should have said using a soft brush like this, but I thought it was obvious." And yeah, I definitely want to emphasize this, okay? Because like I don't want what I'm saying as well as what's happening here to be taken out of context. The point that I think this person is trying to make and that I'm also trying to make is that the issue is not if you want to apply your base color with a soft brush. Some people like airbrushes. They just like airbrushes. Okay, you just want to airbrush everything. That's cool. More power to you, okay? More power to you. Whatever floats your boat. But I completely agree with what they're saying here is because like what the fake artist is trying to do essentially is to do something like this and be like, "Oh, look, I colored it in." And then to imply this is exactly how they apply their base color. But if you start coloring over this, you do some rendering for the cats. I don't know. I'm gonna try to make my cats. And then you like, really, really like airbrushes. Some people do. It's your favorite brush, right? You start adding the cat details. Wow. Da-na-na-na-na. What's gonna happen though is exactly what they were saying. You're gonna have this gap, okay? This gap between where your line art is or where your base color is and where the line art actually is, if this is the way you fill in your base color, right? Some people don't like working with line art. So you can have this fuzzy edge, that's completely fine. If this is the way it's done, the base color is applied like this, there's a big gap and there's the black liner on the outside. That's not what this artist is advertising as the final product. The final product, clearly the base color reaches all the way to where the liner is. This is what they're advertising for the final product. This is the method they're showing as to how they got there. It's not the same. If this is the way you're coloring, your end result is gonna look way different than this. No one is saying if you use a soft brush, you are using AI. No, that's not what anybody is claiming here. It's just that this person is falsely advertising their process. They're working backwards. They generated an image and they're working backwards to try to prove to you they drew it, which I don't think they did. And another commenter also says, you can use soft brushes for the base, but not like this. What the F? It looks weird. The poster says, thank you for people who understood why I said that. Of course, it's okay to use a soft brush for the base, but clearly not this way. And the commenter says, when you use this technique, you want to have blurred edges. So it doesn't make sense to waste time on line art. And that's the thing too, right? Some people will literally do something like this and then they just like coloring like this. They'll grab a hard eraser and then they'll erase so that everything actually gets inside the line art. That's chill too. That is not what Jenny is advertising here because they're not even coloring to go past the line. So anyways, enough of harping about this point. There was a comment that was left under a different post where somebody says, I am crying. And this is the nail in the coffin, which is why I'm harping about this so much. Bro is not even trying to hide it, okay? Gemini underscore generated underscore image 8R4N9 da 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 da. What the fr... Bro went into Google Gemini, generated, I don't know, hot man line art and hot man fully rendered or some shit. I don't know how you generate this stuff. And then took the image and is now trying to color over it, okay? This is why their layers are like this. This is why the line art is on a white layer. Because bro yoinked this thing from Google Gemini, pasted it as the base layer, and is trying to color over it to hide the fact. Like, oh, I drew this myself, guys. Ignore the Google Gemini, haha. Dude, what a scam. And the author says she's doubled down in DMs, insisting that she's legit and playing the guilt card, but refuses to answer for the file name. I am so upset that my name and my character are tied to this. I'm working on my first novel, and I definitely ignored too many red flags because I was excited to finally be able to see him. Please note that I do not support Gen AI in any sense. I never explicitly asked her about Gen AI use because I foolishly assumed artist meant what it was supposed to mean. Lesson learned. I just feel really bad for the author. They essentially were kind of guilt tripped by this scam artist into thinking that they like mistakenly called them out for using AI. When everything this artist Jenny has done so far has not proven that they've legitimately made their work. Again, everything is alleged at the end of the day, right? But so far, at least with my eyeballs, everything that I've seen, not really sealing the deal for me. One step further, that's so funny. This was another call-out post made by another user, Secret Skull, writing, Arthurs, be aware of this AI scammer. Hall of Shame, and there's a list of AI scammer accounts. One of them being this other account called Carol Lines 56, which I also want to add, like the bios, right? Fantasy, illustrated, concept design commissions. Why do the bios always read really similarly on like a complete side note? But anyways, bro left the Google Gemini watermark on their art. Their art. Tell me you didn't even try to hide it without telling me you didn't even try to hide it. So anyways, what are your thoughts on this entire situation? And again, it just sucks that like there's so many of these AI scammers in the book space specifically, because again, a lot of these authors, they're not artists. So they go and commission artists to make cover art and character art and stuff like that. And they just get scammed by these people preying on these authors, hoping like, oh, because you're not an artist, hopefully you can't tell that my stuff is a bit suspicious. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think the artwork is legit? Do you think all the proof that's being shown is a bit sus? Because, to be honest, I'm not sold. But if you like this video, I appreciate it. If you like and subscribe, don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators, or on Coffee, I have free resources. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. or Thursdays at 7:30. Hope to catch you all there or in another video. Peace.